Hey, you're listening to Coffee Talk with Liquidshano 1973. Here's your host, Shane Lakita.
Good morning, my friends. I'm hoping that your Thursday morning is starting off great, much like mine is. I just came back from a couple days of training, which gives me a lot of reflection points and a lot of things to talk about, but just wanted to check in with all of you on this episode of Coffee Talk with Liquidshano 1973. And as my wonderful intro said, I'm your host, Shane Lakita, and I'm so appreciative of all the love that I've been getting lately with people sharing, posting, and sending out the podcast itself to all their friends and family. And if you haven't done so and you want somebody just to hear some positive affirmation or some good focus, only about a 15 to a 25 minute usually podcast of just getting people kicked off on the right direction, send them my way. The more followers that I can get, the more traction that I can get with the podcast itself is really, really helpful for me to build something that I put myself out there and be able to have and be able to enjoy doing with all of you, which helps me in my journey, but also to help you in yours. So I definitely do have the deep, very Barry White voice this morning going on because it is bright and early before I head out to work, but I just wanted to catch up with you. I haven't done a podcast in a couple days. So last couple days, I've been sitting at a training, and the training that we've been doing is we were actually observation people. We were people that were observing the training. We were sitting around with everybody and just interacting and interjecting, and they were frontline sales leaders that were sitting there trying to drive sales within the industry that I work in. And what we did was we would sit there and we would watch the role plays and watch the game planning and all the other stuff that was going on. And we would just interact and be able to give feedback or add some value or color with the commentary that we were making or whatever it was. And it was a really, really great couple days and a couple team building things too. So there's a couple things that really stood out to me during these last couple days that I really thought to myself, how can I incorporate that in with the journeys that we're on? And one of the biggest things that I learned during the last couple days was we sat at the table and we talked about planning and preparation, okay? So planning and preparation was a really, really big key to everything. So when you have your goals, as in sales goals, or you have your goals as in whatever it is that you're trying to be able to accomplish, and you're able to look at the goal, even though it may seem like a mountain of a goal, to break that goal into small bite-sized goals, to make them smaller molehills that you can overcome and be able to attack and be able to do what you need to do. And then when you can string a bunch of those smaller ones together, you can achieve the larger goal. Now, the concept of that is pretty simple, right? I mean, that's a pretty easy one. I mean, we all know that we can do that. I mean, 100 pounds to lose seems like such a large, enormous amount of pounds to lose. But 5 pounds this week or 2 pounds next week, and put a bunch of those smaller weeks together, and then you'll eventually hit that bigger goal. But you need to break it down into achievable, bite-sized goals. Now, a lot of people have heard the term SMART goals, and that was a lot of the conversation that we were having with how do we get people to understand the concept of if they have a certain amount of sales quotas to hit, they got to be able to look at that and make it realistic for themselves to be able to be mentally prepared to be able to attack it and do the right things. So when I'm listening to all of this jargon about sales, I'm tying it right back into health, right? And so let's just talk about that again. When we talked about, okay, 100 pounds seems like a really large, exorbitant amount of pounds to lose. How about when somebody wants to be a weightlifter, okay? And so you start off and you're sitting there on the bench and you're just flabby and not really feeling all that great, and you're feeling like, oh man, I'm not where I need to be, where all these other people are trim and they're defined and they're ripped and they've got 6-pack abs and they've got biceps for days or whatever else. And you're thinking to yourself when you're sitting there on the bench and you're trying to lift up weights and you're putting up this really minimal amount and then you're really sore afterwards and it's just really painful. And then you think to yourself, this is such a huge climb that I have to make. And I know it's good for me. And I know people have told me that weightlifting is so good. But the mental side of things, to be able to think to yourself the size of the mountain that I have to climb when I'm so out of shape the way that I am, you might tell yourself, how do I get to where I want to go? Well, you break it down into bite-sized chunks again. Again, you incrementally get to where you want to be. You start off smaller, and then you go higher reps maybe at a lighter weight, or maybe sprinkling in a heavier weight every once in a while to be able to lift that up and do whatever you have to do to be able to then eventually lift the weights that you'd love to lift. That's just one example. So very similar concept to what the business side of it is, when you can break your quotas and your targets and your goals and your financial aspirations or whatever it is from the mountain, you can break that down into small little hills. Same exact thing in our health journey. Now, I know I've talked about it many times on previous podcasts, but I think it's just important to address again that we need to do this in our journey. We have to make sure that we don't make something bigger than what it really is. I know a lot of people might say, well, I've let myself go to where I am right now, and it's going to be so hard to fight back. Or you've heard the term, it's so easy to lose and slide. I'm not lose weight, but slide down the road of gaining and being unhealthy and those kind of things. But it's so hard to work back and be able to lose the weight or do the healthy things or whatever it is. We've all heard that, right? I know I have. I've said it 1,000 times, where I can go off the rails and gain 20 pounds within 3 weeks, but it takes me 7 weeks to lose 5 or 10. I mean, we've all been there. But here's the thing, the mindset of that is that if you go into it thinking that way, that you're going to struggle, or it's going to take so much time, or I'm just never going to get to where I have to get to, you literally, at the end of the day, you literally will defeat yourself. You're going to get to a point where you're going to step back and go, this is just unachievable, unattainable, all those things. All the negative words that we've told ourselves before, you'll continue to tell yourself because you're not in the right mindset of SMART goals and small goals and achievable goals and realistic goals. So in business, a lot of the things that I do, or that I learn from, or that I share with some of the business owners that I'm a consultant for, we sit down and we talk about business, but we talk about goals and goal setting and setting structure and setting yourself up for success. The purpose of the meeting the last couple of days was all about not only breaking down your goals into bite-sized chunks, but also setting yourselves up for success with a plan. Now I know, and I'm going to get, I get this every single time that I talk about putting a plan together for you and your health journey and making sure that you try to stick to the plan, or you try to be able to give yourself a plan B and C and all the things that I've talked about many times in the past that leads to success. But I've gotten many, many people that will say to me, a plan is only as good as how it will make you feel after you achieve the plan. But if you put too much focus on the plan, you will then defeat yourself, because then perfection is better, or people perceive or have that perception that perfection and being perfect with your plan is the key to success, rather than achieving goals within that plan. And I've been told that many times by people. So here's the thing. If you can sit back and you can say to yourself, I can put a plan together, an achievable plan, a realistic plan, not something that is just so rigid that you can't do, or something that you are thinking to yourself as really light and doesn't challenge yourself whatsoever. You need a middle of the road plan, something that's going to be able to challenge you, but also is achievable for you to accomplish and achieve your goals in life, in health, and all those things, right? So, with all that being said, a good plan is important. A achievable goal is important. But the last piece of this whole entire equation is, do you have, and this was something that the facilitator at the time stood up in front of all this group of about 100 people and sat back and looked at all of them and said, now after we talked about plans and we talked about coaching and we talked about all these things, at the end of the day, do you have the passion to get the job done? Do you want this more than anybody else? Do you want to focus and achieve great things? Do you want it? Is there a passion for it? Is there a need for it in your heart that you want to achieve great things? That was some really deep questions that he was asking a group of business individuals, right? Sales managers and store managers and area managers and all this stuff. And he said, do you have the passion to be able to fight like hell to get to the place that you want to get to? Because in sales, it's all about numbers and quotas and targets and all that stuff. And I get all that. But it was eye-opening to me that he was talking about the heart. And he was talking about the passion and the energy and the drive to get to where you have to get to. Whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish, how relatable is this for us? Have you asked yourself that question? Do I have the passion and the energy to truly get to where I want to be? If it's losing weight, do I really want to get to the point where I want to lose weight? Or do I keep giving myself excuses and going down the road of eating a little bit of this and eating a little bit of that and not being as focused as I once was, or sliding down the road of this or doing those kind of things? Because it takes work and dedication. It takes tough diligence. And we all sit back and we tell ourselves all the time, if we want to get to where we have to get to, it takes work and dedication. But then the second that we start to slide, we're like, oh, well, let's go ahead and get focused and try to reset and all those kind of things. And resets are good, and I get all that. But I'm just saying, if you really have the passion and the energy to do the things that are necessary for you to do to get to where you have to go to, you'll get there. Now, it may not be overnight, and it may take longer than others or whatever else. But at the end of the day, if you're passionate about it and you love it and you breathe it and you want it and you're driven for it, you'll accomplish it. And if anybody is trying to push you towards being mediocre in that journey, towards being just mediocrity, push them out of the way and say, I need you to get out of my way because I strive to be excellent. That was one of the biggest things that he said in front of the group. It was a picture of this big lion's head. In the background, it said something to the effect of, if you're going for mediocre, I'm not. Get out of my way because I'm going for excellence. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a bully or be somebody that's a jerk because you want to be able to get to where you want to get to and somebody else around you isn't or whatever. What that means is in the mindset of a person that accepts mediocrity, you're going to achieve mediocre results. If you don't change your mindset from setting up all that planning, putting achievable goals and whatever else that you want to do, and you plan for somewhat, sort of, okay, well, kind of, or whatever. I'm just going to kind of go into it and hopefully things will, the cards will fall the way that they do. It takes work. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I was talking to my friend and we were talking about how I've been starting to incorporate lifting again, and it fluctuates with my weight and everything else. And we were talking about how I said that by a certain date, I'd love to be able to get my body to a point where I'm proud of. And I'm proud of the way that it looks. And I feel like it's firmed up and it's built. And I've got these new weights that I'm working with. And they said to me, that's a big portion of it. But a lot of it is also what you're putting into your mouth. And I said, well, no, I get that. I have to eat right. And he said, no, you're belittling that. You're not talking as from a frame of absolutely, and this is what my plan is going to be around the eating aspect or the portion of cooking healthy or those kind of things. What am I putting into my body is so much more important to me than just lifting and getting some cardio in, which are very important aspects also. But he said the way that I discussed it was, oh yeah, I know that. I know that it's important to what you eat. I know those kind of things. And he stopped me in my tracks and he said, wait, hold on. You know that, but why aren't you doing that then? You legitimately have told me that you're struggling because you've been maintaining for a long period of time and you've actually gained some, and you're looking back and you're going, man, I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels, or I'm not really feeling this journey, or I'm not really feeling where it's at. And he goes, whose fault is that? I said, well, obviously it's got to be my fault because I know. He goes, obviously it is your fault because you are settling for mediocrity. You're settling for, it's okay that I'm not feeling good about where I'm at. You're settling for, I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it. Why? Because I just don't want to do it. Not any excuses around the fact that life adds stress, because it does, or life adds whatever scenarios that goes on. What he's saying is absolutely true. It does matter. And my mindset, if my mindset is the food, yeah, I know it's important, but I'm not actually jumping in there to do it, I'm never going to get the results that I want to get. And so when this sales leader stands up there and says, stop accepting mediocrity, one of the other things that he said that stood out to me, and I wrote down his notes, was he said something to the effect of, if you are here in this room right now, you're above average. You were hired within this organization because you're above average. Stop accepting the fact that you think that you're just average or you're below average or your results are just average. Start believing in the fact that you're above average and shoot for that above average. He said, live in the space of being above average. Why is it that we just always, like in sales world, if you're at 95%, some people look at that and say, wow, I'm at 95%. That's so close to 100. I'm right there at my targets. You know, I might have fell a little bit short, but whatever. And he said, stop accepting mediocrity. Stop going for the fact that I'm at 95%, that's okay. Why aren't you shooting for 120 and making that your target? You know, 120% will get you the max payout, blah, 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 all this stuff, business lingo, right? Business stuff. But I always tie it back to where we're at. You know, how many of us have gotten to a point where we've lost whatever amount of weight and we got to close to where we wanted to be, but we just never push forward, and then we start to slide, and then we start to do the things that we don't really need to do because we're accepting mediocrity and we're not accepting the actual goal that we're trying to shoot for. It takes work. It takes dedication. It takes focus. It takes passion. It takes heart. And you have to ask yourself, do I have any of those? Or do I have all those? Because it's almost like a hodgepodge mix of all of those things put together into this capsule that you could take. If you could take that and you could find the passion, the energy, and all those things that you need to be able to continue to fight, wouldn't you all take it every single day? I know I would. So every day you got to get up and you have to ask yourself, am I mediocre today or am I above average and excellent? And it's key to ask yourself that question because you're going to know. The second that you sip that cup of coffee or you look at yourself in that mirror or you get out of the shower and you're ready to go, you're going to know exactly where you sit for the day. And you're going to say to yourself, am I mediocre today or am I above average and excellent or superior or whatever word you want to use to give you above the fray of just being an average individual. Be excellent. Believe that you can be excellent. Fight for the things that you know you can achieve and stop telling yourself that you can't get them. I mean, it's all easier said than done. I get it. It's all mental. But I believe that just that small thing that you can do when you first wake up and you tell yourself as you're thinking of your day, whether it's a job you have to accomplish or whether it's a book you're writing or whether it's the person you're caretaking for or whether it's you're a stay-at-home mom and you've got baby duties or whatever else. Are you going to be a mediocre mom? Or are you going to be an excellent mom today? Are you going to be a rock star mom today? Even if you're not feeling it, you got to mentally get yourself right in the right spot. If today I'm going to be on track with my eating, counting calories, counting points, doing whatever it is that I'm doing, if I'm focusing on my eating, am I going to be average today? Am I going to be ho-hum, lackluster, and just kind of like throw a couple things in there and say, oh yeah, I know what that is? Or are you going to do the due diligence and fight like hell to get the things that you want to be able to get? Be excellent. It's so key. It's crucial. And if you don't feel like you're excellent and you feel like you're mediocre, you have to get to a point where you can change your mind. Put up your whys. Hold them close. Think to yourself, what's the reason I'm doing all this? If it's financial and you want to get a new car, great, put that on the side of it. Thinking to yourself, if I'm excellent at what I do with my job, I'm going to get enough money to go get my new car that I want or that, whatever it is. If it's losing weight, then great, put that as your why. If it's your children that you want to live a long life for, awesome, put that why right next to you and say, that's why I'm fighting. That's why I need to be excellent with what I'm fighting for today. It all matters, and it's all mental, and it's all so important. Believe in yourself. Know that you're worth the investment for you to sit back and believe that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve. And I know it's like kumbaya stuff, and I know it's like Pollyanna sometimes, but it's so true. It's one small gesture you can do for yourself to change your mindset for how you can set yourself up for success today, or you can set yourself up for eventual failure because you are in a negative mindset and you don't believe that you can accomplish the things that you want to. Push forward. Be excellent. Be the best version of you. It's so important. And then if you do that, and you are consistent with that, one small day will lead to 2, which will lead to 7, which will lead to 14, which will lead to a month, which will lead to a year, and your results will follow. Your attitude will depict what's going to happen in your life. All you have to do is try to get yourself right to the right spot. Even if it's a small movement to the right direction. You don't have to be fully like, I am woman, hear me roar, I am the king of the jungle, or whatever it is. I'm not saying all that. What I'm saying is change your mindset if it's negative into a positive. Go from mediocre to excellent. I hope that makes sense to you guys, because it made a lot of sense to me when he was standing up there talking about it. And it was easily relatable to life when we're talking about business. I said to myself, oh man, I got some good content to be able to bring to the table. I'm hoping that people can really understand what I'm talking about here. But I think that that's the key to it. Take your mindset from mediocre and average to excellent and awesome. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Coffee Talk with Liquidshano 1973 podcast. You can also follow him on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Liquidshano 1973. Also, if you get a chance, leave some love on iTunes. Have a great day.